The brains are more interesting than the looks of people, I think. This is Hedy Lamarr, and I'm Trish Thomas-Mink. Hedy Lamarr was quoted as saying, "Any girl can be glamorous. All you have to do is stand still and look stupid." People have said she was the most beautiful woman to ever star in the movies with her smoldering femme fatale appeal. The Austrian woman named Hedwig Kiesler, Hedy Lamarr's real name, came to Hollywood and by 1938 became famous in the film Algiers. Though at the time she was the equivalent of sort of the tambourine girl in a rock band in the 1960s, they called her the girl. One gossip writer referred to her as the ecstasy girl based on her first film in Europe. But there was another side to Hedy Lamarr. She could invent things. And during World War II, she dated and worked with Howard Hughes. The world considered their nightly dates the drama of Hollywood gossip columns in 1938, but Hedy's talent for inventing things came in handy. Hughes wanted to make the fastest planes in the world. When Hedy looked at the square wings on the side of the plane, she knew they were shaped wrong. The planes were too slow. So she got pictures of fish and birds, the fastest birds she could find, and she kept sketching fish, birds, until the wings were diagonal from the plane, aimed backward instead of straight out to the side. She used bird wings and the fish tails to help design a faster plane. She also wanted to invent a tablet, a cube during World War II that would fizz up into cola when rationing was such an issue in the U.S. and in Europe. She thought it could be shipped over to the soldiers and to the factory workers, and when they needed a break or they wanted a cola, they could drop one into a glass of water and boom. Hedy said in interviews that inventing things came really easy to her. It was kind of her hobby. She set up in her Hollywood home a fully stocked work table for inventions. I watched a PBS interview with Alexandra Dean, the director of a documentary coming out next month called Bombshell, the Hedy Lamarr story. Thompson said when interviewing scientists, she was shocked by their comments about Lamarr. Many of the scientists believed she was a spy for the Germans and that she brought the technology over to the States. The scientists asked, "Doesn't that make more sense than her actually being able to create these inventions?" Hedy was married in Europe at 18 to a man named Fritz Mandl. He was an Austrian military arms merchant and munitions manufacturer. Hedy often went to meetings with Mandl while he conferred with scientists, which is where she got her education into applied science. It's also where she nurtured her talent in science. Now, she personally quit school at 15 to do movies, and that was the entire extent of Lamarr's formal education. They were very rich. He was like the third richest man in Austria or something. He had ties to fascist Mussolini and Hitler, who sometimes were guests in their castle. Now, she left Austria when she was in her early 20s to come stateside. One of the most wonderful things that I discovered about Hedy is that in the vein of Gertrude Stein, she had a there. She was incredibly smart, but also very conscious of herself as a human being. She said of her husband, Mandl, "I knew very soon that I could never be an actress while I was his wife. He was an absolute monarch in our marriage. I was like a doll. I was like a thing, some object of art that had to be guarded and imprisoned, having no mind or no life of its own." Lamarr was also fleeing the Nazis. She could not get a ticket for Normandy that she wanted, so she disguised herself as a governess, accompanying this youth that had a ticket to gain passage. Then she met Louis B. Mayer, mesmerized him with her beauty, and he took her to Hollywood. According to a blog I read by a man, I'm going to massacre his name, but his name was Martin Marchese. Mayer thought Hedy would be the next Greta Garbo. Lamarr was a stunning on-screen star, but Mayer never thought she fully developed her acting skills that he had saw for her. She did become a major movie star, though. And in true Hollywood style, she worked vigorously until she was in her mid-30s. When she tried to branch out to other roles, she found it very difficult. She brought her love of inventing to Hollywood. Like I said, she had a place in her home where she actually had a bench and a table where she could invent. She starred in movies with greats like Spencer Tracy, Clark Gable, Jimmy Stewart, and it was through them that she met a composer by the name of George Antheil. He was German-born, and Antheil had experimented with automated control of musical instruments. They began to talk about communications, and the topic turned to radio-controlled torpedoes, a World War II weapon that could be jammed by broadcasting interference. The Germans did it all the time. Lamarr utilized the information she garnered while attending meetings with scientists and her husband Fritz. And Hedy and Antheil began to collaborate on a technique of frequency hopping, rapidly switching among random synchronized frequencies. This prevented the Germans from jamming the signals. They could only jam them for like a second or two. The plan was to use a piano roll to randomly switch signals from the control center to the torpedo in short bursts among 88 frequencies, like the 88 piano keys. It was called the Secret Communications System, and it was granted a patent, a U.S. patent. I'm going to give you the number. Number it's 2,292,387. The technique was never used by the military in World War II. The patent lapsed, and the U.S. military used the invention for their ships during the blockade of the Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962. Lamarr never got credit for it until much later, though. The technology is still used in Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. It is not known how many inventions that were created by Lamarr in her lifetime. The attention of her later life was taken up with the bad plastic surgery and an accusation of shoplifting. She became a recluse in her later years, doing most of her socializing on the telephone. A quote from Martin Munchausen's blog, I think, comes from the documentary that's coming out, Bombshell. And it states that she left messages on her children's answering machines, and they saved them. They recorded them. Lamarr said, "People are unreasonable, illogical, and self-centered. The biggest people with the biggest ideas can be shot down by the smallest people with the smallest minds. Think big anyway. Build anyway." Because she was a movie star, what was written most about Lamarr were her marriages and divorces, her plastic surgery, and the accusation of shoplifting. She felt as if she were treated like a joke, according to one of the recordings I listened to on YouTube. It's number 2 in the credits below. Her brilliant mind was never addressed. She never took credit for her invention. In 1997, she and Antheil were recognized by the Electronic Frontier Foundation, or Pioneer Award, and the Bobby Nass Spirit of Achievement Bronze Award for lifetime achievements that have significantly contributed to society. Hedy Lamarr passed away on January 19, 2000. Bluetooth and Wi-Fi are going strong. The internet based on her technology has revolutionized the world.